In a world where humans and vampires coexist, a plague spreads among humans, completely destroying their world. At that time, a group of vampires appears, gathering children under the age of 13 who are not affected by the disease and taking them to their world. After 4 years of the children living in the vampires' world, it is revealed that the vampires are raising these children as pets to feed on their blood daily. The children are gathered in large numbers at a facility where they are cared for, then they line up before vampire supervisors to give their names before proceeding to blood extraction machines. At this moment, our protagonist, Yu, gives his name and waits for his friend, Mika, to do the same. They then go to the machines, where their blood is drawn, and afterward, they are given juice to replenish their lost blood. However, Yu is extremely upset by this situation and refuses to drink the disgusting juice. Mika tells him, if you don't drink it, you'll get sick. But Yu replies, I'll never drink this filth, and you should stop following their orders too. Mika responds, I think our situation isn't that bad. We have food, shelter, and safety. We live together as a family. Yu becomes frustrated and says, we are not their pets to accept this fate. Mika sighs and tells him, you know your stubbornness is pointless, right? At that moment, some children are happily drawing on the ground when 2 vampires pass by. Yu quickly calls out to the children, telling them to move away, but before they can, the vampires walk past without a care, stepping on the children's hands as if they were insects. The children cry out in pain, and Yu, enraged, attacks the vampires, demanding they apologize immediately. One of the vampires effortlessly lifts Yu as if he were nothing, and Mika rushes to intervene, apologizing on Yu's behalf. This infuriates Yu even more, and he shouts, shut up. Why are you apologizing to them? They are the ones who should apologize. The vampire holds Yu over a great height, preparing to drop him to his death. But at that moment, a noble vampire appears and stops them. The vampires release Yu and leave. The noble vampire, named Ferret, is a high-ranking lord among the vampires. Yu is shocked to see that Mika knows someone like him. Mika greets Lord Ferret, who asks what he's doing there. Mika responds that he's having some trouble because of his family's behavior. Ferret acknowledges the hardship and invites Mika to his mansion at night to drink his blood, as usual. Mika agrees, and Ferret then asks Yu if he would like to come too. Yu is about to respond rudely, but Mika quickly interrupts, saying Yu is just a little shy, so he won't be coming this time. Ferret has no issue with this and leaves. As Yu and Mika walk home, Yu tells Mika he would have beaten the vampires if he hadn't interfered. Mika sighs and says, stop being ridiculous. Humans will never match vampires in strength. Yu replies, you won't know that until you try. Mika warns him, stop being reckless. Take care of yourself and your actions. Yu then asks Mika how he knows that noble vampire. Mika explains that he gives Ferret his blood in exchange for delicious food. Yu is deeply upset by this and punches Mika before storming off. Later, Yu sits alone outside their home. His friend Akame comes out and asks, why are you sitting here alone? Isn't Mika with you? Yu responds, I'm not with that idiot. She asks him why he's so angry. He snaps, shut up and leave me alone. She insists, why should I? We're family. Yu, still furious, retorts, I don't have a family. Akane argues, that's not true. The orphanage director told us we are all one family in the Haikyuu orphanage. Yu falls silent and mutters, that's nonsense. The scene shifts to the past, showing the orphanage when you first arrived. The director introduced him to the other children, welcoming him as part of the family. Mika and the others were excited and happily greeted him. Back in the present, Akane tells you to come inside because dinner is ready and everyone is waiting for him. They enter, and the children excitedly run to Yu, telling him that their sister Akane is making delicious curry for them. Yu is surprised and asks Akane where she got the ingredients. She explains that Mika brought them a little while ago. She also mentions that it's her first time cooking, so she's a bit excited. Yu realizes that Mika must have given his blood to Ferret in exchange for the ingredients, and this upsets him even more. Later, they all gather for dinner, and the children are thrilled to eat the curry. However, Yu remains upset about Mika and refuses to eat. His younger sister asks why he isn't eating, but he stays silent. The children then start arguing about whose birthday it is. Akane playfully reassures them, saying, today is everyone's birthday. The children laugh and continue eating. After dinner, they become concerned about Mika's whereabouts and ask Yu about him. Yu, however, dodges the question, and they all laugh together, enjoying the moment. In the middle of the night, Mika finally returns home, completely exhausted. Yu, who has been waiting, hasn't slept yet. Mika sees him and says, I'm back. Yu, aren't you going to welcome me? Yu doesn't respond and instead says, we left your portion of the food downstairs. Yu, still upset with Mika, confronts him, saying, you gave your blood to that noble again. Next time, I'll give mine instead in exchange for the food. Mika replies, your blood isn't tasty. No one would want it. Yu gets irritated, but Mika laughs and tells him he was just joking. They go downstairs to eat. Mika splits his portion in half and offers some to Yu, but Yu refuses, saying, eat your own food. Mika insists, no, you have to eat. I know you didn't eat your portion. This is an order, not a request. Yu scoffs, and why should I take orders from you? Mika pulls a gun from behind his back and says, what do you think of the surprise? You need to eat well so you can kill vampires with this weapon. Yu takes the gun, overjoyed, and Mika shows him a map of this world, telling him they will use it to escape and return to the human world. Yu is astonished by Mika's plan to escape and asks if he got the gun and map from the noble lord. Mika explains that the lord's mansion is enormous and that he explored it to find these things. Of course, he wouldn't just trade his blood for nothing. He tells you they need to escape quickly, but Yu becomes worried and asks, how will we escape to the human world when the plague is still there? Mika reassures him that since they are still under 13 years old, the plague won't affect them. They are still 12, so they have one more year to find a solution as long as they stay together. At that moment, Akame becomes concerned and comes downstairs to see what they are doing. Mika tells her to wake up the children because they need to escape immediately. They quickly prepare and set off to execute their escape plan, sneaking carefully until they finally reach the exit. But at that moment, Lord Ferret appears and says, I knew you'd come here. That's why I've been waiting for you, my little lambs. The children freeze in terror at his presence. The Lord smirks and says, I love the look of despair that appears on human faces when hope disappears. It becomes clear that everything was part of Ferret's plan. This was a game he orchestrated for his amusement. Mika is shocked and quickly looks at the map, but suddenly, the Lord moves at lightning speed, biting one of their younger siblings and killing her instantly. Yu, furious, fires at the Lord, but Ferret dodges the bullet and smirks, saying, that's my gun, isn't it? Well then, I'll give you one last hope. The map you have is real, and the exit is right in front of you. The Lord continues mocking the children. Yu orders his younger siblings to run immediately. They sprint away, but the Lord catches up to them in an instant, slaughtering them all. Mika and Yu collapse in grief, crying helplessly. Mika grabs the gun and charges at the Lord, aiming to kill him. But Ferret moves at an incredible speed, severing Mika's arm and piercing his heart. At that moment, Yu acts swiftly, firing a shot at Ferret's head and taking him down. Mika lies on the ground, bleeding out, barely clinging to life. Yu refuses to leave him behind, but Mika yells at him to run before they capture him. Yu hesitates, but he listens, fleeing with tears streaming down his face, mourning his fallen siblings. He successfully escapes this world, and at that moment, a group of people appears, saying, the boy from the prophecy has finally appeared. Their leader turns to Yu and says, boy, we will use you to eliminate the vampires. Yu rushes to the human commander, embracing him while crying, and says, use me to kill the vampires. 4 years later, Yu is seen as a soldier in the Imperial Demon Army of Japan. Yu wanders through the city, which is completely destroyed. At that moment, a giant monster appears, one of the 4th rank horsemen, a tremendously strong beast that the soldiers cannot handle. They urge Yu to leave immediately because the situation is dangerous. But he calmly replies, who's running away? My goal is to take revenge on the vampires. If I can't handle a weak monster like this now, how will I ever achieve my goal? Yu draws his sword and attacks the monster with all his strength, taking it down. The next morning, the scene shifts to the human city inside a school. Yu is at school, extremely irritated because, despite defeating the monster, he was still punished for disobeying orders. He is frustrated, wondering why a soldier like him has to attend an ordinary high school. As he grumbles in class, the teacher gets annoyed and asks, why are you mumbling? But Yu rudely ignores him, which angers the teacher, who then threatens to expel him for his attitude. Yu, thrilled, asks, are you really going to expel me? Please, do it as soon as possible. The teacher is shocked by Yu's reaction and gets even angrier. At that moment, the girl sitting behind Yu calls out to him, telling him to stop making a fuss and sit down. Yu asks, who are you? She introduces herself as Shirnoa, a military surveillance officer, and warns him that if he misbehaves again, she will report him to the army, which will extend his punishment. Yu gets irritated, but Shirnoa tells him they need to cooperate. He calms down and sits respectfully. She then informs him that his punishment will last until he makes some friends. The scene flashes back to the past, to the moment Yu escaped from the vampire world and encountered a group from the human army. Yu asks their leader, haven't humans gone extinct? The commander is surprised and says, is that what the vampires told you? Only 10% of humanity survived the virus, but we are not weak enough to go extinct. That's why humanity is rising again. The commander explains that they aim to make the human organization the dominant force, which is why they are gathering the remaining humans to reclaim control of the world. Yu is confused and asks, who are you? What organization? The commander introduces himself as Guren, a colonel in the Japanese Imperial Demon Army. Guren tells you that if he comes with him now, he will be able to kill vampires and take his revenge. He asks, you hate vampires, don't you? Yu looks at his hands, still stained with the blood of his fallen friends, and replies with deep hatred, I hate them so much. Guren shakes his hand and says, then come with me. I'll give you the power you need for your revenge. Back in the present, Yu is still in class, muttering curses at Guren for ignoring him all this time, refusing to give him power and let him kill vampires. The class ends, and the students head out for ice cream, but Yu stays behind, ignoring everyone as usual. Shirnoa tells him, you could just say, wait, I love ice cream. Yu is confused and asks, what are you even saying? She responds, why not tell them that? You'd make friends instantly. Yu scoffs, where do you get this confidence from? Don't act like you know me. Shirnoa smirks and says, Colonel Guren told me a few things about you. Like how the vampires killed your entire family when you were young, which is why you can't connect with people, you're afraid of losing them once you get close to them again. Yu gets furious and snaps, "Stop talking about me, and tell that idiot Guren to put me in the vampire extermination squad immediately. I already have the power to kill them, and he knows it." Shirnoa pulls out a letter and hands it to him, saying, "He guessed you'd say that, so he told me to give you this." Yu is puzzled and reads the letter. Guren writes that they don't need a soldier in the army who doesn't even know how to make friends. He adds, "If that bothers you, then get a friend quickly. But I know you won't, you idiot." Yu gets even angrier, grabs his bag, and storms out. Shirnoa follows him, and Yu asks, "Are you going to follow me everywhere?" She sighs, "Unfortunately, yes. And I'll report any stupid action that breaks army regulations immediately." At that moment, Yu and Shirnoa witness a group of students bullying another boy at school. Yu ignores the scene and decides to head home. Shirnoa tells him, "If that's how you react to a situation like this, you'll never make friends." Yu overhears the bullies calling the boy a pet, which reminds him of his own past. He gets angry and orders them to stop immediately. The leader of the bullies scoffs and asks, "And who are you? Trying to play hero? Or do you want to become our new servant?" Yu smirks and responds excitedly, "Yes. That's exactly the kind of reaction I was waiting for. I'm so happy. Do you guys want to fight? Let's go. I was getting bored anyway." The leader gets irritated, and a fight is about to break out. But Shirnoa steps in and tells Yu, "You can't hit civilians. As a soldier, that's against the rules. You'll be punished." Yu freezes for a moment, shocked. He lets the leader hit him instead. Later, Yu, the bullied boy, and Shirnoa are seen bringing a bunch of sweets to the bullies. The new boy apologizes to Yu and says it was his fault. But Yu yells at him, "Stop apologizing. Tell me what your problem is. Why are you letting them bully you like that?" The boy replies that they weren't bullying him. He wanted to ask Yamana for a favor, so he asked them to be his friends. Yu asks, "And who's this Yamana guy?" Shirnoa scoffs, "Are you dumb? He's the guy who just punched you." Yu turns to the boy and asks, "So what favor do you want from him?" The boy explains that he failed the entrance exam for the demon army and heard that Yamana is in the army and was nominated for the Moon Demon Squad, a unit specialized in exterminating vampires. Yu is shocked and says, "Even I don't know how to join that squad. How did he get in?" He then mutters that he'll kill that idiot Guren the next time he sees him. The boy continues, saying he wanted Yamana to put in a good word for him so he could retake the exam. He also reveals that he wants revenge on the vampires for killing his older sister. It turns out that vampires killed his sister when he was a child because she was protecting him. At that moment, a massive explosion shakes the school, and the alarm blares. It is revealed that a vampire has escaped from a nearby research facility. The students panic and flee immediately. But, as usual, Yu recklessly rushes toward the vampire's location. Shirnoa tries to stop him but fails and runs after him, telling the new boy to contact the vampire extermination squad immediately. While the other students cower in fear, Yu heads straight to his locker, retrieves his sword and gun, and sprints toward the vampire's location. Yu arrives to find the vampire holding a schoolgirl, preparing to kill and drain her blood. He also notices Yamana on the ground, trembling in fear. Yamana mutters that he hasn't seen a vampire in 4 years, but now, his time for revenge has come. Yu quickly draws his sword and attacks the vampire, but she dodges his strike effortlessly and counters with an attack of her own. A fierce battle ensues until Yu finally manages to sever her arm. Noticing that the girl is still alive, Yu orders Yamana to take her and run. But Yamana is too scared to even stand. Yu, confused, yells, "Man up. You're a soldier. Get up and fight." But Yamana stammers, "I'm not a soldier at all. It was all a lie. I made it up so the other students would fear me." Yu is stunned by this revelation. Meanwhile, the vampire regenerates her arm and becomes furious. She lunges at Yu, attempting to drink his blood. But Yu holds his ground, wounding her multiple times. She continues healing, smirking as she approaches the girl, saying that once she drinks her blood, she will become stronger than ever, and you won't be able to stop her. Just as the vampire is about to sink her fangs into the girl, Yoichi, the new boy, suddenly jumps in and pushes the vampire away from her. However, the vampire recovers instantly and is about to kill him. Yu intercepts her attack and struggles to fight her off. Enraged, the vampire grabs Yu and leaps out of the window with him. They crash onto the ground below, and Yu drives his sword into her. But to his horror, nothing happens. The vampire sneers and tells him his attacks are useless against her, boasting that she will kill him before the vampire extermination squad arrives. At that moment, Guren, the commander of the vampire extermination squad, arrives and impales her with his cursed blade, instantly finishing her off. Guren then yells at Yu, "You idiot! Who hunts a vampire with a regular weapon?" Yu snaps back, "I was about to finish her off before you interrupted." Guren smirks, "Oh, really? You're sure you could have killed her? Anyway, your performance wasn't bad for a kid. Plus, you helped save your friends' lives." Yu, uninterested, says, "I don't care about any of that. Just let me join the vampire extermination squad." But Guren refuses, saying, "I don't like men who can't even make friends. If you don't make friends in school, I won't let you join the squad." At that moment, Yoichi rushes over, extremely worried about Yu, and trips over him out of panic. Guren turns to Shirnoa and asks, "Who's this kid?" She grins and says, "He's Yu's new friend. So, you have to keep your promise and let Yu join the squad." Yu, exhausted, loses consciousness, and they take him to the medical room. Later, he wakes up to find Yoichi sitting beside him, relieved that he's awake. Shirnoa enters, delighted that Yu has regained consciousness, and announces to both of them, "Congratulations. You are now officially members of the Vampire Extermination Squad." The next morning, Shirnoa meets Yu and tells him that he has become quite famous at school since he is the hero who saved the school from the vampires. They then talk about humanity's situation in this dangerous world, and Yu asks Shirnoa why he is still attending school when his strength has already been acknowledged and he has officially joined the extermination squad. She replies that she doesn't know, but if he has any complaints, he should take them up with Colonel Guren. Yu grumbles that the idiot Guren is never in his office, so he can't reach him. Shirnoa reassures him that his training in the extermination unit officially starts today and that the power he seeks will be attainable through training. Shirnoa then pulls out a mysterious black key, which instantly transforms into a powerful cursed weapon, her personal vampire exterminating weapon, which she obtained by forming a contract with the monster inside it. Yu is amazed by the weapon's power, and Shirnoa asks, "Isn't this the strength you were after?" Yu responds, "Yeah, if I had that weapon, I could kill all the vampires by myself." Shirnoa tells him that's impossible, he must learn teamwork first. But Yu ignores her words, draws his sword, and demands, "Give me that weapon now." He declares that he will take it from her and go avenge his family immediately. Shirnoa laughs and informs him that it is impossible to wield someone else's cursed weapon due to the contract between the blade and its owner. Yu quickly lunges at her with his sword, but Shirnoa defends herself with her weapon. He realizes he is completely outmatched. She tells him it's foolish to fight a cursed weapon with a normal blade, before defeating him with ease. Yu admits the weapon's power. As they walk through the school, Yu tells her that vampires must be no match for her now that she possesses such an incredible weapon. She replies that the vampires they face are armed, unlike the one he killed today, which means they are just as strong. Yu is shocked. Shirnoa explains that this is why Guren constantly emphasizes teamwork. Suddenly, Yoichi runs toward them in fear, followed by a group of former bullies. They apologize to Yoichi for bullying him before and ask him to become their leader at school. Yoichi nervously declines, saying he's not suited for that. Yu, confused, asks, "Weren't you guys bullying him yesterday? How can you suddenly ask him to lead you now?" They explain that they need his help and know they have no right to ask, but they truly need assistance in rescuing their friend Yuji, who entered the forbidden room and now can't get out. Yu is baffled and doesn't understand. Yamana explains that they heard Yoichi joined the extermination squad, so they wanted his help. Shirnoa smirks and says, "So, you guys broke into a first-degree restricted military zone and now want help?" Yamana tries to justify their actions, but she ignores him and informs them that entering that area results in severe punishment. Yamana asks, "What will happen to Yuji?" She tells them, the army must have captured him by now. He might even be executed. As Yu, Shirnoa, and Yoichi walk through the school, Yu asks Shirnoa about the forbidden room. She chuckles and says, "Haven't you ever heard of the school's 7 wonders?" Yoichi asks about Yuji and whether he has any chance of getting out. Shirnoa replies, "Most likely, no. That place is actually a training facility for the vampire extermination squad. If an untrained person enters, the monsters inside the cursed weapons will definitely take over." She then leads them to the room and explains everything about it and how the army uses it to train new extermination unit recruits. At that moment, Yu gets excited and steps toward the room, determined to obtain a cursed weapon himself. Shirnoa tries to stop him, but as always, he doesn't listen. Inside, he sees a vast collection of cursed weapons and finds Yuji standing in the center of a magical circle, holding one. Shirnoa warns Yu not to go any further or act recklessly. She explains that the extermination unit will arrive soon to rescue Yuji. Yu replies, "That axe in Yuji's hand isn't contracted yet, is it? In that case, I'll take it." He rushes toward Yuji. Shirnoa tries to stop him, but, as usual, she can't control him. She orders Yoichi to call the extermination unit immediately and then chases after Yu. Yu launches a fierce attack on Yuji, who is completely possessed by the monster inside the weapon. But Shirnoa intervenes and warns Yu that if he touches the cursed weapon, the monster will take over his mind just like Yuji. Yu ignores her warning, grabs the cursed axe from Yuji's hands with ease, and then immediately loses consciousness. He finds himself in a dream, seeing Mika and the rest of his siblings as children, all happy. Yu is confused but sits with them at the table, feeling at peace. The cursed monster appears, disguised as Mika, attempting to take control of Yu's heart and mind. However, Yu resists, realizing this is a trap set by the monster, and successfully regains his consciousness. When he wakes up, he finds Shirnoa and Yoichi beside him. Shirnoa is astonished by his ability to overcome the monster and awaken on his own without assistance. Yu asks if the axe belongs to him now. Shirnoa tells him that Colonel Guren will still have to determine which weapon suits him and that there are rituals he must undergo to claim a cursed weapon as his own. Yu replies that the most important thing is that he defeated the cursed monster. "Now, even Guren won't be able to ignore me anymore." Shirnoa smirks and says he's right. Starting tomorrow, you'll be attending the Vampire Extermination Squad's training school. Yu is thrilled that he will finally learn how to kill vampires. The scene shifts to the vampire world. Lord Farid appears, shockingly still alive. He calls out to Mika, who is also still alive and standing in the very place where he lost his family because of Ferret. Ferret smirks and says, "I knew I'd find you here." He then asks, "So, have you found your dear brother you at last? The filthy humans are using him." Mika, enraged, draws his sword. At that moment, it is revealed Mika has become a vampire. At night, monsters attack the human city in the vampire world, and people flee in panic. But at that moment, Mika appears, wielding his sword and slicing the monster into pieces in the blink of an eye. The humans cheer, relieved that they have finally been saved. A vampire from Mika's team approaches him and asks, "Why are you protecting these humans? They're just pets. We own them." He then mentions rumors that Mika turned into a vampire after drinking Queen Krull's blood and asks if they are true. Another vampire in the team dismisses the rumors, saying, "Regardless of what happened, a vampire just took down this monster, and he'll be praised for it alone. After all, he's just a greedy turned human." Mika replies that he isn't interested in any praise and tells them to do whatever they want before walking away. The vampires declare their control over the human city and demand that the residents donate blood in exchange for protection. A young girl thanks Mika for saving her life and offers him her blood as a token of gratitude, saying that if it weren't for him, she would have died. Mika remembers his human past as a child and blames himself for everything that happened, regretting his failed plan. It is revealed that after the vampires found the children and Mika lying dead on the ground, Queen Krull, the ruler of the vampires, noticed that Mika was still alive. She turned him into a vampire by making him drink her blood. Back in the present, Yu is at school when he accidentally bumps into another student while walking. However, the boy is just as stubborn and reckless as Yu, and they immediately start fighting. Later, Yu heads to the extermination squad's training area, where he finds Yoichi waiting for him. Yoichi asks what happened, and Yu replies that he ran into a pillar on his way. Shirnoa is already waiting for them and leads them to class. To their surprise, Guren is the instructor. He introduces Yoichi and Yu to the rest of the students. When Yu goes to sit down, he realizes that the boy he fought earlier is in the same class. They start arguing again. Guren, irritated, beats both of them and forces them to sit down before beginning the lesson. After class, the student, Kimizuki, goes to Guren's office and demands the power he deserves. He insists that he must obtain a first-class black demon weapon to become stronger. Guren tells him that the time isn't right yet and that he is still too weak for that level. Kimizuki becomes frustrated. Guren then asks why he joined the extermination squad. Kimizuki hesitates before Guren states, "It's for money, isn't it? You need it to treat your sister, who is infected with the virus." To prove that Kimizuki isn't ready yet, Guren draws his sword, and just feeling the cursed monster's aura from the blade weakens Kimizuki. A new training session begins for the students in the extermination squad. This time, they must face monsters in teams of 2. Yu is about to call out to Yoichi to form a team, but Shirnoa beats him to it and teams up with Yoichi first, clearly to force Yu into teaming up with Kimizuki. The test begins, but Yu and Kimizuki are completely out of sync, scoring the lowest marks. The training is interrupted when Kimizuki's sister suddenly falls critically ill. He insists that he can continue the training and check on her later, but Yu yells at him, saying that family is the most important thing and that he should go see his sister first. Yu goes with him to check on his sick sister, reassuring him. Later, they sit together and discuss what they must do to improve their scores and qualify as officers in the extermination squad. Yu states that they must give everything they have to achieve their goals. Encouraged, Kimizuki declares that they must obtain the necessary power at any cost. The scene shifts to a meeting of the noble vampires, who have gathered for one purpose: to devise a plan to take over the human-controlled area in northern Tokyo, which is ruled by the Japanese Imperial Demon Army. Queen Krull declares the extermination of the Japanese Imperial Demon Army, officially announcing war. She states that this decision was made to ensure world stability and prevent humans from triggering another plague. She proclaims that humans must be wiped out completely. Mika stands silently, listening to the Queen's words, but all he can think about is how to save his brother, Yu, from this war. At the same time, the leaders of the Imperial Demon Army are meeting. Commander Shirnoa stands and delivers his report to the Supreme Commander, stating that there has been unusual vampire activity along the Kanto region's borders. He is about to continue his report when he notices that Guren is sleeping, completely ignoring the meeting. One of the commanders wakes him up, and Guren stands, yawning. Finally, this boring meeting is over. The Supreme Commander scolds him, "What's with this ridiculous behavior? This conduct is unacceptable for a member of the Ichino's family." Guren casually responds, "I'm just bored, that's all." Just as the Supreme Commander is about to get angrier, Shirnoa steps in, trying to calm him down and continue his report. But before he can finish, Guren leaves the room without a care. As soon as he exits the headquarters, Yu charges at him, aiming to kick him in the head. But Guren effortlessly grabs Yu's leg and slams him to the ground. Yu angrily yells at him, demanding to know why he disappeared for the past 10 days and why he still hasn't given him a cursed weapon. Guren smirks, "Do you really want revenge that badly?" Yu responds, "It's my only goal in life." Guren sighs and finally agrees to grant Yu a contract with a cursed monster and send him to the front lines. Yu is stunned and overjoyed, but Guren tells him that he no longer cares about Yu completing his training. "If you die, that's your own fault." Yu gets so excited that he starts jumping around, but Giren punches him and warns, "Don't ever try to attack your superior again, you idiot," before walking away. Later, Yu heads to the military headquarters and meets Shirnoa. She asks if he got into another fight at school. He replies, "That idiot Giren hit me." To his surprise, Shirnoa already knows everything. Yu scoffs, "Then why are you even asking if you already know?" Shirnoa grins and says, "What matters now is that you got permission to form a contract with a cursed monster." Yu hesitates and says, "I'm not sure. Maybe Giren is just messing with me." Shirnoa reassures him Giren is reckless, but he always keeps his promises. The scene shifts to the vampire world, where preparations are underway to transport troops to the human city for the upcoming war. Mika watches as the aircraft are prepared. Farid appears beside him and smirks. "You must be so happy. You'll finally get to see your dear brother, Yu, won't you?" Mika ignores him and walks away, as usual. As he wanders through the city, Mika arrives at the house where he once lived with his family. Just as he's about to enter, the door opens, and a young boy steps out, speaking to his sister. But the moment the boy sees a vampire standing before him, he freezes in fear. Mika attempts to reassure him. However, the boy's sister rushes forward, pulling her brother away while trembling in terror. Mika is stunned by their reaction and quickly leaves the house. The next day, at the Vampire Extermination Squad school, the instructor hands out the results of the latest exam. Yu is shocked when he sees his score, 0. Shirnoa approaches to check his results, but Yu hides the paper to avoid embarrassment. But Shirnoa snatches it from him and starts teasing him, waving it in front of the other students. Yu chases after her, trying to grab it back, but she places it in front of the entire class. Frustrated, Yu finally snatches the paper from them and yells at Shirnoa, furious with her. Kimizuki then grabs the paper and scoffs, "Are you an idiot? How do you even get a 0 on an exam?" Yu retorts, "Stop acting all smug. Show me your score." To Yu's shock, Kimizuki has a perfect score on every test. The two immediately start bickering again. Giren walks in and sighs, "What are these idiots fighting about now?" Yu, noticing Giren, immediately demands, "Didn't you say you'd give me a cursed weapon? How long are you going to keep lying to me?" Kimizuki also steps forward and confronts Giren, asking why he disappeared for 10 days. He insists that they're ready to claim their cursed weapons and demands to know why Giren has been stalling. Giren simply asks, "Do you really think you have what it takes to form a contract with a cursed monster?" Yu scoffs, "Maybe that idiot Kimizuki doesn't, but I do. I'm more than ready." The two start arguing again. Giren turns to the instructor and asks if she believes these two idiots are truly capable of handling a contract with a cursed monster. She replies that they are stronger than any other students their age. Giren then asks about the rest of the class. The instructor explains that Yoichi has the highest stability rate when facing monsters, meaning he is also ready. Giren draws his sword and summons the cursed monster he is contracted with, testing their endurance and resistance to the monster's aura. The instructor tries to stop him, but, as always, Giren recklessly goes ahead with it, telling the students that if they die, it's their own fault for not training properly. A dark aura fills the room, causing most of the students to collapse instantly. Even Kimizuki is heavily affected, struggling to stay on his feet. However, Yu, Yoichi, and Shirnoa remain unaffected, though they are shocked by what's happening around them. Giren ends the test and returns everything to normal, announcing that those who are still standing have the potential to form a contract with a cursed monster. He tells them that they will be permitted to attempt a contract with a first-class black demon weapon, just like his sword. He then takes Yu, Kimizuki, Yoichi, and Shirnoa to the room where the contracts are formed. On the way, the instructor tells Giren that she usually lets his reckless test slide, but she still isn't sure the students are ready to contract with a first-class black demon weapon, as these are the most dangerous cursed weapons. Giren responds, "This isn't a game. If they don't have the strength to face cursed monsters, then they're useless, and they deserve to die." He then asks Yoichi, "Do you still want revenge on the vampires who killed your sister? Or have you changed your mind? You can go home now if you're scared." Yu and Kimizuki both mock Yoichi, telling him to give up on revenge since this world isn't suited for someone as kind as him. Yoichi hesitates, then recalls the moment his sister was killed by a vampire. His expression hardens as he replies, "I'm still determined to take revenge." Giren smirks and continues leading them to the contract chamber. Once they arrive at the underground room, Giren warns them that the demons they are about to face are powerful. If they take control of you, they'll kill you instantly. They enter the room and are stunned by its eerie atmosphere. Giren explains that each of them must choose a weapon and step into the magic circle beside it. He tells them that the weapons here are of the highest rank because they contain the strongest demon kings. Excited, Yu and his comrades step forward and select their weapons. Each of them stands in their respective magic circles, and the contract ritual begins automatically. The test begins with Yoichi, who is transported to the past, reliving his childhood with his sister as vampires attack their home. When the vampires reach their room, his sister hides him under the bed and tells him never to come out. He obeys, but the vampire enters, drains his sister's blood, and kills her. The vampire then leaves her lifeless body on the floor in front of Yoichi. It is revealed that the vampire who killed her is none other than Lakis, one of the noble vampires currently in Mika's team. The cursed monster appears in Yoichi's trial, taking the form of his sister, and tells him that he is now in his deepest memories. Yoichi, shocked, asks his sister if she is still alive. The monster replies that she is dead and that this is his test. The scene shifts to Kimizuki's trial. He is in a room in his home, which was destroyed by vampires, and his sister, Mirai, is lying sick in bed due to the virus. She wakes up and calls out to him. He asks how she is feeling, and she replies that she feels better today. He goes to get her something to eat, but Mirai calls him back and tells him that if she is a burden, he can leave her behind. Kimizuki yells at her, saying she is not a burden and demands that she stop talking like that. He tells her that if they die, they will die together. At that moment, the cursed monster appears in the form of Mirai and asks, "So, you don't cry from the weight of this burden? You don't want to abandon me?" Kimizuki is stunned by the question. The monster then smirks and says, "Of course, because you are a selfish human who only thinks about yourself." Realizing the truth, Kimizuki understands that he is facing the cursed monster, who is using his deepest memories against him. Guren watches them from the outside as they lie unconscious during the test. He looks at Kimizuki and comments that he seems likely to succeed in the contract. He then glances at Yu, who is still undergoing his test. In Yu's trial, Mika appears, as always, and says, "So, you're here after abandoning us and running away." But Yu immediately recognizes that this is the monster and says, "Stop pretending to be my family." The monster replies, "I thought I had touched your deepest memories." Yu demands that the monster surrender and give him its power immediately. The monster smiles, reveals its true form, and lunges at Yu, pinning him down. It sneers, "You must have encountered another monster before me, haven't you? But don't think that just because you dealt with a low-ranking demon before, you can defeat me." Yu yells at it to shut up and give him its power. The monster asks why he wants its power. Is it for revenge? Yu answers, "Yes, that's right." The monster then asks, "You lost someone dear to you, didn't you?" Yu replies, "I lost my family because of the vampires." Satisfied, the monster agrees to grant its power to Yu so he can take revenge, but warns him that he must dedicate himself entirely to vengeance in order to wield its full strength. The monster then disappears and reappears as Akame, Mika, and the rest of his siblings. They tell him, "You're abandoning us again." His siblings all appear, asking, "Aren't you going to avenge us?" Mika tells him to give up on his friends and stay with them, or is he planning to live alone and forget them forever? They continue pressuring him, but Yu shouts at the monster to shut up and grant him its power so he can get his revenge and save everyone. The test ends, and the monster appears before him again. She smirks and says, "I like you. I have no problem granting you my power, as long as your heart remains strong. But if I ever sense weakness, I will take over your body." Yu agrees to her terms. The monster introduces herself. Her name is Azuramaru. She tells him to call on her whenever he needs her power. Then, she suddenly senses something strange within Yu's body. She tells him, 10% of your body isn't human at all. Maybe it's because of human experiments that were done on you. Yu is confused, unable to understand what she means. Azuramaru warns him, never trust humans. She admits it's a strange request to make of a human, but insists that he must never trust anyone. She then completes the contract, granting her power to Yu. Yu wakes up. He sees Guren and Shirnoa standing beside him. Guren asks if everything is okay. Yu, overjoyed to have obtained power at last, excitedly replies, "Of course." Kimizuki appears and smirks. "Why are you acting so smug? I completed the contract faster than you." Yu is thrilled to hear that Kimizuki succeeded as well and asks about Yoichi. He then sees that Yoichi is still trapped in the test and hasn't woken up. Inside the test, Yoichi faces the monster, which still appears as his sister. He asks, "Who are you, really?" She replies, "You summoned me. You want my power to take revenge for your sister." Yoichi nods, "Yes, I wanted to form a contract with the monster to gain power." The monster then asks, "So, you want my power?" She tells him that she has looked into his heart but found no strong desire for revenge. Yoichi insists that he wants to avenge his sister. At that moment, the monster overwhelms him, taking control of his body. Guren realizes what has happened. He tells the others, Yoichi wasn't strong enough to obtain the monster's power, but at least 2 out of 3 passed the test. Yu asks what's happening. The monster, now possessing Yoichi's body, counts the humans in the room, furious at their presence. It summons the cursed weapon and prepares to attack. Guren turns to Yu and Kimizuki and says, "There's a man-eating monster in the room. You need to eliminate it immediately." He points to Yoichi, who has been completely taken over. Yu and Kimizuki fight against the possessed Yoichi. Yu yells at Guren, "How can you ask us to kill our friend?" Guren coldly replies, "That's the monster. Yoichi is already gone. You have to kill him." Yu and Kimizuki launch an attack. Just as Kimizuki is about to deliver the finishing blow, Yu stops him and says, "Are you seriously going to kill Yoichi?" Kimizuki hesitates at the last moment. The monster taunts them, "What's the matter? Can't you kill me?" Yu tries to reach Yoichi inside the monster. They continue dodging its attacks, but Yu refuses to fight back. He finally stops moving and says, "I will never kill you because you are my friend." He drops his sword. At that moment, as the monster is about to kill Yu, Guren shouts at Yoichi, Are you going to stay a coward and watch your family die from under the bed again? Get up and protect your friends. Yoichi starts regaining his consciousness. He takes back control of his body, bursts into tears, and runs toward you. Kimizuki and Shirnoa are stunned that Yoichi was able to regain control. Giren scolds him, "You idiot. You took too long to wake up." He then yells, "Forget about revenge. You're gaining this power to protect your friends. They are your new family, understand?" Yu repeats Giren's words. Giren smirks and says, "Now that you've all got your weapons, it's time to head to the front lines." Everyone is shocked. Giren announces that vampires have been spotted in Kansai and are planning to take over Shinjuku. Yu gets excited, "So we're finally going vampire hunting." The scene shifts to the vampire forces inside an aircraft, now approaching Tokyo. They are informed that an attack from the Imperial Demon Army is expected in Ikebukuro, Shinjuku, and Shibuya. Mika and his squad are among them. The next morning, Yu wakes up to the sound of his alarm. He quickly gets ready, puts on his military uniform, and heads out for his first mission. He finds Shirnoa waiting for him at the subway station. She tells him he looks much better in his new uniform. They board the train and head to their first mission. Shirnoa explains that vampires are stationed in Kansai, planning to reclaim Shinjuku. Yu replies excitedly, "I'll finally get to kill vampires as soon as I reach Shinjuku." Shirnoa reminds him that their main goal is to defend the area's borders. But, as usual, Yu ignores her completely. When they arrive at their destination, they meet the stationed army forces. Shirnoa introduces them, stating that they are the Moon Demon Squad from the Vampire Extermination Unit. The soldiers are surprised, questioning how a group of kids could be an elite squad. As they step outside the wall, Yu notices a girl arguing with Giren, upset about being placed in a team of beginners. They then meet up with Yoichi and Kimizuki. Yu asks them what's going on with the girl. Giren notices that the team has arrived. It turns out the girl knows Shirnoa and is frustrated that Shirnoa was made squad leader instead of her. Shirnoa, as usual, teases her. The girl, Mitsuba, gets irritated and draws her cursed weapon, attacking Shirnoa. The two start fighting. Giren draws his weapon and knocks them both down. He warns them that if they fight again, he'll throw them in solitary confinement. He then explains the mission. He tells them that he will take a different route to Shinjuku than they will. He emphasizes that they must move as a team and follow orders. Fighting among themselves outside the wall is not allowed. He states that their first mission is to rescue the humans captured by vampires in the area. Then, he leaves, and the mission begins. Mitsuba is strict, prioritizing discipline and maintaining formation above all else. When they reach the designated area, they hear a girl screaming. A young girl is running away from a vicious monster. Yu immediately rushes to help her, but Mitsuba stops him and orders him not to break formation. The monster chases the girl and is about to kill her. Yu tries to save her again. Mitsuba stops him once more, explaining that this is a vampire trap. She warns him that if they save the girl now, they will all die. At the last second, before the monster can kill the girl, Yu ignores Mitsuba's warnings and charges in to save her anyway. Mitsuba rushes after him to assist. The rest of the team prepares to move, but Shirnoa stops them, telling them that vampires are nearby. The squad gets ready to fight. Yu tells the girl to run while Mitsuba attacks and slays the monster. At that moment, the vampires reveal themselves and attack. They mock the humans, calling them foolish pets. One of the vampires lunges at Yu, but he fights back, unleashing the power of his cursed weapon. The vampires are stunned by his strength. Realizing they are facing the Vampire Extermination Unit, their leader orders them to call for reinforcements and capture the squad. Yu launches a powerful attack. The vampires dodge swiftly. Mitsuba orders Yu to retreat. One of the vampires sneers, "You think we'll let you run away? You animals." Yu is enraged. His glare alone terrifies the vampire. The vampires hesitate and start retreating. That evening, the squad returns to headquarters. Mitsuba scolds Yu for disobeying orders and breaking formation. She tells him that his reckless actions put the entire team in danger. Yu apologizes and admits that she's right, but he insists that he has no regrets about saving the girl. He states that their primary duty is to save lives. At the same time, he acknowledges his mistake and tells her she can punish him however she sees fit. Mitsuba coldly replies that she despises people like him because they always lead their squads to destruction. At that moment, the young girl arrives and thanks Yu for saving her. Yu tells her there's no need to thank him, that was their job. Mitsuba reassures the girl that she is safe now because she is under the protection of the Japanese Imperial Demon Army. The girl smiles, relieved. They take her home. Before leaving, Mitsuba tells Yu that she still hates him. Then, she walks away. Yu is puzzled by her behavior. Shirnoa tells him that Mitsuba has a painful past, so he should just ignore her attitude. Later, the team rests. It is revealed that Mitsuba's previous squad was wiped out due to reckless actions, just like Yu's. Meanwhile, the squad talks to the young girl. Kimizuki asks if she would be willing to answer a question. He asks her about the location of the vampire's hideout. Yu reassures her that she doesn't have to answer if she's too scared, but the girl agrees to share what she knows. She reveals the vampire's location. The team moves out to rescue the humans from the vampires. They arrive at the station where the vampires are holding the captives. Shirnoa tells them that they can defeat the vampires since they now have first-class black demon weapons. However, they must still proceed with caution because their intel is uncertain. Yu assures her that he will follow orders and won't act recklessly again. The team enters the station and reviews their intel, which states that there are 7 vampires in the area. That means they are outnumbered by 2 vampires. Because of this, the plan is to attack the vampires while they are asleep. As soon as they step inside the station, they find a large number of human children and adults gathered there. At that moment, Yu recalls his time spent in the vampire world, but the team continues searching for the vampires inside. Mitsuba informs them that they will head to the 3rd floor, where the vampires are supposed to be, according to their intel. Kimizuki questions why the humans aren't trying to escape since the vampires are not on this floor. Mitsuba explains that they don't run because of the monsters outside. That's why they prefer to be protected by the vampires in exchange for their blood. On their way, the team encounters a vampire. Mitsuba immediately orders them to prepare for battle. The moment they draw their weapons, Yu dashes forward and slays the vampire with ease. The vampire writhes in pain as he dies and spits, "You filthy animal." Yu smirks and asks, "How does it feel to be killed by a pet vampire?" The vampire vanishes. As expected, Mitsuba is furious with Yu and yells at him for breaking formation again. She moves to hit him, but Yu stops her and argues that he wasn't reckless this time. He didn't break orders, the enemy was unarmed, and most importantly, he didn't attack until the command was given. He then shouts at her, telling her to stop complaining on the battlefield. At that moment, a figure appears from behind and attacks Mitsuba. Yu quickly pushes her out of the way and blocks the vampire's strike. Excited by the battle, Yu exclaims that he has been waiting 4 years for this moment. The vampire sneers, "You think your weak attack will hurt me?" Yu suddenly unleashes his full power, slashing through both the vampire and his own sword. Everyone is stunned by Yu's strength. Shirnoa comments, "Now I see why Yu is Guren's favorite." The team continues forward until they reach the vampire's location. The vampires appear. However, to their shock, there are more of them than the intel suggested. One of the vampires captures Mitsuba. It is revealed that the vampires tricked the team by feeding them false information through the young girl. They had threatened to kill her siblings if she didn't do as they said. Mitsuba, realizing her fate, tells the team to run. She says that she is going to die anyway, but Yu yells at her, saying that he will save her right now. He charges at the vampires, and the rest of the team follows. Yu suffers several injuries but keeps fighting. He lunges at the vampire holding Mitsuba and slices him in half. He successfully rescues her. The team then attacks and wipes out the rest of the vampires. They free all the captured humans. The young girl runs up to Yu and apologizes for deceiving them. Yu reassures her, saying she did nothing wrong. She was only protecting her family. Mitsuba, watching, is surprised by Yu's actions. She notices that no matter what, he never abandons his friends. She asks Shirnoa why Yu is like this. Shirnoa replies that Yu was captured as a child in the vampire world and managed to escape after the vampires slaughtered his family. Mitsuba approaches Yu and asks if what Shirnoa said is true. Yu coldly replies that it's none of her business and walks away. Meanwhile, a member of Guren's team is watching Yu and his friends from a distance. The scene shifts to Kimizuki, who is fixing the car. Yu is amazed by Kimizuki's technological skills. He comments that he hasn't ridden in a car since he was taken to the vampire world. He explains that the vampire city has no cars because fuel is always expensive for them. At that moment, Kimizuki starts the car. Yu gets excited and asks if he can drive it too. Kimizuki responds, "I don't even know how to drive, so how could you?" However, he tells Yu that he'll teach him how to drive later and leaves him alone. Kimizuki then goes to Shirnoa and Mitsuba and informs them that the car is fixed. He tells them to get ready to move out, but they suddenly hear a crash. They turn around to find Yu playing around with the car again. He crashed it into a pillar. Kimizuki loses his temper and yells, "I'm going to kill you." Shirnoa then tells everyone to get in the car so they can head to their next location, but she's too short to see the road properly while driving. Yu and Kimizuki start teasing her about it. Annoyed, Shirnoa pulls out her weapon and knocks them both out. As they continue their journey, Yu and Kimizuki promise never to tease Shirnoa's height again. Suddenly, they hear explosions from the Shinjuku area. Shirnoa warns everyone to stay alert. When they reach the checkpoint, a vampire appears. Yu immediately tenses up and orders Kimizuki to drive the car straight toward the vampire. The team jumps out. Yu tells them that this one is a noble vampire, but the noble vampire casually stops the car with one hand and tosses it away. Yoichi attacks him, but the vampire blocks the strike with his sword and counters fiercely. Shirnoa and Mitsuba quickly step in and intercept the attack. As Shirnoa is giving the team their next instructions, the vampire suddenly appears behind her in the blink of an eye. He is about to kill her. Yu rushes in and blocks the attack just in time. The vampire grins, clearly excited by the fight. "You're talented," he says, "especially for a strong human. Who are you?" The team braces themselves for battle. Suddenly, 2 more powerful vampires appear. Yu asks Shirnoa what they should do. She tells him that if they can, they should retreat. The entire team unleashes the power of their cursed weapons. One of the noble vampires then informs their leader that the 7th progenitor is waiting for him on the front lines. The vampire nods and says, "So Ferret is expecting me." He then turns to Yu and smirks, "I'll let you go today, but next time, I'll drink your blood." With that, the vampires leave. The scene shifts to the front lines, where an intense battle is raging between humans and vampires. The human forces fire at the vampire aircraft, destroying as many as they can. However, as usual, the vampires have a trick up their sleeves. They send a plane filled with explosives straight into the city wall to destroy it. The plane crashes into the middle of the wall and explodes, creating a massive breach. Vampires flood into the city, spreading everywhere. Yu and his team arrive in the city and learn that the vampires have breached the western defense. At that moment, enemy aircraft appear near Yu's location and begin firing at the human army. However, the soldiers shoot them down with arrows, blowing them up. Vampires descend from the second aircraft and spread throughout the area. The regional defense commander and his troops emerge, ready to fight them. Yu and his team join the battle. The fight between the vampires and humans is brutal. Yu and his team eliminate every vampire in the area. The defense commander welcomes them and introduces himself as Sergeant Nagai from the 3rd Division of the Shinjuku Security Unit. Sergeant Nagai is excited when he learns that Yu and his team are from the Moon Demon Squad. He takes them to the camp and informs them that vampires have breached the western defense barrier. He explains that the counterattack squad is currently pushing them away from the city, but they won't be able to hold them off for long. He requests that Yu and his team head west and join the vampire extermination operation. Yu responds that it was already their mission. The team boards the military vehicle that will transport them west. Sergeant Nagai personally escorts them to the defense line. Meanwhile, Guren watches the battle from the west. He sees the wild vampires draining human blood. He searches for their leader. Then, he spots Ferret and Mika. Realizing that Ferret is their commander, Guren is shocked when he sees that Ferret has noticed him from such a great distance. At that moment, a vampire appears near Guren and the instructor and attacks her at lightning speed. But a member of the 1st unit of the Moon Demon Squad intervenes and kills the vampire instantly. Her name is Mito. She asks Guren why he summoned her so urgently. The rest of the team arrives, realizing that something big is happening. They ask Guren how they should proceed. Guren turns to Shigeru, the girl who was monitoring Yu's team. He asks for a report on their performance. She informs him that they successfully eliminated the vampires and rescued the civilians. Guren replies, "That's excellent. They're ready to join the war." He and his team then head to the location where the vampires are gathering, at the 5th Street intersection. Their goal is to eliminate the vampire leader and hopefully turn the tide of battle. Meanwhile, Ferret speaks to Mika. He tells him that someone is watching them. He then asks, "How do you feel about being back in Tokyo? You must miss it, don't you?" Though, Ferret adds, "You don't have any good memories here." He then smirks and says, "You might even run into you if luck is on your side." Ferret asks if Mika wants to drink blood to prepare for the upcoming battle. Mika, enraged, argues with Ferret. They discuss the past and Ferret's plan to kill Mika's family for his own amusement. Ferret mockingly asks, "Are you still upset about the past, Mika? You're a vampire now." Mika retorts that he is more upset with himself for being Ferret's puppet. Then, he storms off. A flashback takes the story 4 years back. After Queen Krull turned Mika into a vampire, she brought him a human boy to drink from. She told him that if he drank vampire blood, he would be able to live comfortably in his new immortal body, which possessed far more strength than humans. However, Mika refused and declared that he would never become a vampire. She pointed out that, despite his refusal, his body craved blood. She tried to convince him again, warning him that he would die if he didn't drink. Mika replied that he would rather die than become a vampire. Then, Queen Krull wounded herself and let her blood flow into a goblet. She held it out to him, saying, "Drink my blood, and you will live forever." Seeing the blood streaming from her arm, Mika lost control. Overcome by thirst, he drank it immediately. Back in the present, Mika pulls out a capsule filled with blood and drinks it to keep himself from collapsing. He thinks to himself, "I have to find you before these 10 days are over." Meanwhile, Yu and his team are traveling in the military vehicle with Sergeant Nagai. Shirnoa hands out the enhancement pills. She explains that they boost power but warns that overuse causes the body to explode. She tells them that the effect lasts for only 15 minutes. She distributes the pills to everyone. Just then, a helicopter appears as they approach the battlefield. It fires a missile at them. The vehicle is destroyed. The entire team is thrown from the car. The helicopter begins firing at them. Yu rushes towards Sergeant Nagai to rescue him. Yoichi fires his arrows and destroys the helicopter. However, the ground beneath them collapses. The team falls underground. Due to the collapse, the team is split into 2 groups. Yu wakes up Shirnoa. She looks around and realizes that they are in the underground tunnels. She asks about the others. Yu assures her that they're fine, but he tells her that their priority is to treat the sergeant's wounds. Shirnoa states that there is probably a temporary base nearby. However, they must find a way out of the tunnels first. Meanwhile, Kimizuki calls out to Yu, asking if he can hear him. Yu responds and asks if they have found an exit. Yu and Shirnoa decide to head toward the main defense camp. He tells the others to go ahead. They will catch up soon. Following the plan, Kimizuki and his group leave for the camp. Yu and Shirnoa carry Sergeant Nagai and start making their way out as well. At the same time, Guren and his team arrive at Mika's location. They prepare for battle. Ferret appears at that moment and informs Mika that the man in front of him belongs to the humans' main forces. Mika is surprised by his words. Ferret explains that Guren is from the top squad in the vampire extermination unit. The rest of the vampires reveal themselves, and the human soldiers arrive. A fierce battle between humans and vampires erupts. Meanwhile, Yu arrives at the camp, ensuring that Sergeant Nagai receives medical treatment. He and Shirnoa then rush to the battlefield. She informs him that Colonel Guren has sent orders for them to join the battle at the 5th Street intersection. Yu asks Shirnoa, if we can destroy the vampires' main forces, that means we win this battle, right? Shirnoa replies, yes, but we have to hurry and reach Mitsuba and the others at the defense line first. At that moment, Yu overhears soldiers talking about a Moon Demon Squad team that is on the verge of being wiped out by vampires. He rushes over and asks the soldiers about the team members and their location. He realizes that it's his friends and immediately heads toward them at the park. Shirnoa follows, telling him that they can't act recklessly based on unconfirmed intel. She reminds him that their priority is joining Colonel Guren in the fight against the vampires' main forces. Even Guren will need support against them. Back in the battle, Guren slaughters vampires with ease. Both sides are suffering heavy losses. Guren notices that the vampires vastly outnumber them. The instructor tells him that she and Mito will support him. His job is to chase down the vampire commander. Guren agrees, and they put their plan into action. Ferret and the noble vampires observe the battle. Ferret orders Lakis and Renee, Mika's teammates, to separate all the human soldiers from the area. He wants the reckless Guren to reach him alone. They leave to carry out his orders. Ferret then turns to Mika. I expect great performance from you today, considering you're the queen's favorite, he says. He adds that they will fight Guren together. Mika replies that he can take down Guren on his own. Meanwhile, Yu and Shirnoa hurry to rescue the rest of the team. Yu thanks Shirnoa for coming with him, even though they're disobeying orders. She tells him that it's her duty to save her family. Just as Colonel Guren said, they are all one family. They finally reach Shinjuku Central Park. They find Kimizuki and the others fighting off vampires. The battle is intense. Their enemies are overwhelming them in numbers. The team is starting to grow exhausted. Just as a vampire sneaks up behind Kimizuki and is about to finish him off, Yu appears. He blocks the attack and slays the vampire instantly. Then, the team immediately moves to support Guren and take down the vampires. Meanwhile, Guren is locked in a fierce duel with Mika. The battle intensifies. Guren comments, "You're actually strong. I didn't expect this." Mika coldly replies, I already knew that. You, on the other hand, are very weak. Guren suddenly dashes forward. He uses an explosive spell and places it on Mika's head before detonating it. However, Mika reacts at incredible speed and easily evades the deadly blast. Guren is stunned by his inhuman reflexes. Mika remarks, the explosion was just too slow. He then asks, do you really think you can beat me with that old spell? Ferret appears, smirking. He praises Mika. That's exactly what I want. Strength and arrogance combined. Ferret asks, do you need help? Mika scoffs. Who asked for your help? Do I look like I'm losing? Ferret chuckles. Look around you. Your enemies never planned on a one-on-one fight. Mika glances around and suddenly realizes he's caught in a trap. He is ensnared by Shigure's deadly wires. Guren immediately orders Shigure to kill Mika now that he understands the plan. At the last second, she strikes. But Mika dodges every attack effortlessly. Guren then commands Gashi to cast an illusion spell. Gashi attacks as well. However, Mika counters and evades every strike. In the final moment, Guren suddenly appears behind Mika. He is about to cut him in half. But Ferret intervenes. He blocks the strike and knocks Guren away with a single blow. Everyone is stunned by Ferret's immense strength. Guren mutters, he's unbelievably strong. Ferret smiles at Mika. I told you not to underestimate humans, he says. They're deceptive, greedy, and cunning in ways you can't even imagine. Mika yells, shut up. Ferret smirks. Let's take this seriously now. We'll fight together. Mika interrupts him. I'll be fine on my own. I understand their tactics now. Mika then unleashes his full power. Meanwhile, Guren takes out the enhancement pills. He decides to take 2 of them. The instructor tries to stop him. She warns that it's extremely dangerous and could cause his body to explode. But, as usual, Guren acts recklessly. He tells them, we're going to die anyway if I don't take these. He adds, I have to kill the vampires before the effect wears off. Mika smirks. Are you done talking? Can we start now? Guren replies, you're so polite for not interrupting us. Mika lunges at him. Guren struggles to keep up. You've gotten much faster, Guren says. Mika replies, I'll finish you off this time. Guren smirks. Where do you get this confidence? You're just a child on the battlefield. Mika sneers, then watch as this child kills you. He knocks Guren down. Guren's weapon is sent flying. This is the end for Guren. But at that moment, you and the team arrive. Ferret is surprised to see you. The squad notices that Guren has been defeated. Shirnoa immediately orders everyone to take 2 enhancement pills. They need to save Guren. At that moment, Mika stabs Guren and deals a devastating blow. Yu is enraged. He charges at Mika with everything he has. However, he doesn't realize who Mika is. Mika turns to strike Yu down, but he freezes in shock. It's his brother. Yu, unaware, drives his sword into Mika. Mika is equally stunned when he sees Yu's face. Neither of them can believe their eyes. The 2 froze in place at that moment, and Yu asked, Mika, is that really you? Guren yelled at Yu, what are you doing? Activate the curse and kill him now. Mika remained stunned, staring at Yu while Yu hesitated, unable to move. Guren grabbed his weapon, ready to strike Mika, but Mika blocked the attack and quickly moved away. You stood there in shock. Guren hit you and shouted, "Why didn't you kill him, you idiot?" Guren collapsed to the ground, bleeding heavily, making you anxious. Guren scolded him, "Focus on the fight. This is a battlefield." Mitsuba yelled at you, "Why didn't you kill him?" The rest of the team asked what was going on. You stammered and said, "Mika, he's my brother." You called out to Mika, "Are you really a vampire now?" The two brothers stood face to face. Ferret smirked and mocked them, "Oh, what a touching reunion." He turned to you, "How have you been? It's been a while since we last met." Then he looked at Mika, "So, what will you do now? The humans are using you." Mika replied firmly, "I'm going to save him from them." Ferret grinned, "And how exactly will you do that? You is human, and humans can never be friends with vampires." Mika's anger flared, and Ferret taunted him, "You could turn you into a vampire like us." Mika's fury erupted as he grabbed Ferret by the throat. "If you so much as touch you, I will tear you apart." Ferret chuckled, "Relax, I was just joking. No need to get so worked up." Then he asked Mika, "Do you want my help? I can keep the other humans busy so you can rescue your dear brother." Mika glanced at you and noticed he had many new friends. "So you've made new friends," Mika muttered. "You're too kind, and that's why these humans have deceived you." Mika's anger surged, and he unleashed his full vampire power, preparing for battle. Ferret laughed and said, "We'll kill all the humans, except you, of course." At that moment, the noble who had attacked you and his team before appeared and called out to Ferret, asking why he had summoned him. Ferret smirked, "We're capturing the Moon Demon squad alive." The situation worsened for Guren as more vampire nobles joined the fight. He quickly gave the order, "Everyone, retreat." You shouted, "I can't. I have to take Mika with us. He's with the vampires." Guren snapped, "What do you want me to do? Kill everyone just to save your vampire brother?" The team tried to calm you down, and Guren reiterated the order, "Retreat now." As they began withdrawing, Ferret and the other vampires intervened. Yu's rage boiled over, remembering that Ferret had killed his family. He lunged at Ferret with his sword, putting all his strength into the attack. Ferret dodged easily, leading you away from the retreating team, blocking his escape. This forced Guren and the others to re-engage in battle. Guren attacked Ferret, but Ferret evaded and countered with a powerful strike, sending Guren flying. The humans struggled against the overwhelming vampire force. You charged at Ferret, determined to kill him before he could finish off Guren. But Ferret swiftly appeared behind him, ready to sink his fangs into Yu's neck. Suddenly, Mika slashed Ferret's hand, severing it before it could touch you. Ferret sighed, "Calm down, Mika. I was just kidding." Mika turned to you, "Forget this war. Come with me, we'll escape together." You was shocked, "Escape? What are you talking about?" He asked why Mika was still with the vampires. Mika dismissed the question, "That doesn't matter right now." He grabbed you and took off into the air. Shirnoa grew worried about you, but a vampire noble struck her down, ready to finish her off. Meanwhile, you, overwhelmed with emotions, shouted at Mika, demanding an explanation. Mika insisted, "You shouldn't be here. The humans are using you." You pushed him away angrily, "What do you mean they're using me?" "Mika, you're a vampire now." Mika desperately tried to convince you to run away with him and leave the war behind. But you refused. "I can't abandon my friends in the middle of a battle." Mika scowled, "They're not your friends. I won't let them deceive you." At that moment, you heard Shirnoa scream. He turned and saw the noble about to kill her. Enraged, he shoved Mika away and ran towards his team. Mika grabbed him again. "It's too late. Surrender." The vampires started draining the blood of Yu's friends. Yu's rage exploded, and an immense dark power erupted from him, causing his eyes to bleed. Inside his mind, he met Ashuramaru. He asked, "Are you taking over my body because I lost control?" Ashuramaru replied, "I haven't done anything. In fact, I'm terrified of the beast inside you." She made him look up at the sky and warned, "You're stepping into a cursed world. Mika is right. Run away with him. If you don't, you'll never remain human." You lost all control. Dark, cursed energy engulfed him, and he charged at the vampires with overwhelming power. The vampire noble was horrified by Yu's strength, barely able to hold his ground. He turned to Ferret, "What should we do?" Yu had completely lost himself. He even attacked Shirnoa, ready to kill her. But Mika intervened at the last moment, stopping him. Shirnoa desperately tried to bring you back to his senses before he slaughtered everyone. Slowly, you started regaining control. Mika, however, suffered a severe wound in the process. Guren laughed hysterically. "What do you think of that performance, Ferret? Did you see our trump card? It was revealed that you was part of a human experiment designed to turn him into a weapon." Ferret smirked. "It didn't amount to much in the end." Guren smirked back, "Oh, but it did. We bought just enough time." At that moment, the main human forces arrived, launching a full-scale attack on the vampires. Their numbers were overwhelming, forcing Ferret and his army to retreat. The day passes, and we see Shirnoa heading to the secret headquarters of the Imperial Demon Army. She recalls Guren's words on the battlefield, stating that they have finally reached a satisfactory outcome. Returning to the present, the soldiers attempt to prevent Shirnoa from entering the restricted area. She tells them that she is a soldier in the Imperial Demon Army's vampire extermination unit, but they still refuse her entry until she shows them the symbol of her family, the family that leads the entire army. Shirnoa then asks them what they are doing in this secret facility, and one of the soldiers responds that it is a laboratory for the army's test subjects. As Shirnoa enters the secret lab, She is shocked by the number of humans and vampires being experimented on by the army. Most of them are humans being transformed into monsters. She reaches the main room of the research facility and finds Guren in his office. She tells him that she has been looking for him for the past 5 days and that she has a question for him. Guren replies that he will not answer and tells her to leave. She then tells him that Yu has not regained consciousness since the battle and asks him what he did to Yu or what he still plans to do to him. She pulls out the power pills he gave her to give to Yu, claiming they were special pills for Yu's unique weapon. She asks him why Yu lost control after taking those pills. Guren responds by asking why she cares so much and why she seems so upset. He then asks her what answer she wants to hear so that she will leave him alone. He says, "Do you want to hear that I'm conducting experiments on humans so you can get angry?" He then questions how weak humans are supposed to survive in this ruined world without acquiring an extraordinary power. He reminds her of her deceased sister, saying, "Do you know how many people we sacrificed for her to become that strong?" He asks her if she thinks humans can survive without cursed weapons. He then tells her that she got her answer, so she should leave and not bother him anymore. He orders her to leave and tells her that the medicine you took lasts for 5 days, so he should wake up soon. We then see Shirnoa return to Yu's room and sit beside him to watch over him. The scene shifts back to the battlefield, right after Yu collapsed with his friends around him. We see Ferret telling Mika that they need to return to their city. However, Mika refuses and says he will not leave until he rescues Yu. Ferret replies that he understands his feelings, but he cannot save you right now. Mika is frustrated seeing all the humans surrounding his brother. Ferret then asks, "You hate everyone, humans and vampires alike. So what exactly are you?" He then tries to take Mika back to their city, but Mika refuses to calm down. Ferret subdues him by force and takes him back to the vampire city. Returning to the present, we see Mika and the other vampires in the medical ward as they exit the treatment machines. Lakis comments on how much they suffered in the battle because of Yu and asks Mika about his injury, as it was the worst among them. They discuss how the Vampire Nobles Council spoke about human experiments, including Yu's transformation, which they call the Seraph of the End. They mention that this curse is so powerful that it could potentially destroy the entire world. Lakis then asks Mika if he knows anything about their situation, given that he is close to the monster Yu and also close to the queen. He then directly asks, "Who exactly are you, Mika?" Mika recalls Yu telling him, "You became a vampire," and replies, "Isn't it obvious? I'm just an ugly vampire, nothing more." At that moment, an announcement calls Mika to meet the queen, and he immediately heads to her. The scene shifts back to Yu's room, where Yoichi is sitting beside him. Suddenly, Yu wakes up, and Yoichi is overjoyed. He rushes to inform the others. Shirnoa then enters the room, delighted by Yu's recovery, and checks on him. As usual, she jokes with him when she sees him crying about Mika. She says, "What is this? A room for crybabies?" She tells him, "Go ahead and cry. It's natural to cry when you find out your brother is still alive." She also expresses how happy she is that he has finally woken up. Yu then asks her what happened, as he cannot remember anything. Shirnoa is surprised and tells him that nothing happened. He simply said he felt sleepy and collapsed. Yu is confused and finds it hard to believe. Shirnoa then tells him that he lost consciousness right when the squad was on the verge of annihilation, but reinforcements arrived just in time and pushed the vampires back. She reassures him that Mika is still alive and escaped with the vampires. Yu thanks her for telling him the truth. He then notices that she has a wound where a vampire bit her and asks if she is okay. At that moment, Mitsuba and the rest of the team enter, all relieved and happy that Yu has regained consciousness. The scene then transitions to Ferret handing over the vampire research data to his secret partner.